Welcome. You're listening to Ask the Doulas, a podcast where we talk to experts from all over the country about topics related to pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and early parenting. Let's chat.
Hello. This is Kristin, co-host of Ask the Doulas, and I've got Sarah Baker with me today. Welcome, Sarah.
Hello. Thank you.
So happy to have you here. And Sarah, you are currently in our 6-week online course, Becoming a Mother. So I have you here today to discuss, how that series, worked for you during your pregnancy, why you decided to join, and so on. And for those of you who don't know what Becoming a Mother is, we just launched our beta version this spring of the course, and our next series comes out on August 2nd, and it is 6 weeks of preparation for having a confident pregnancy, birth, and also newborn phase. So Sarah, why did you join the class? I remember seeing you on our webinars that were promoting the class initially.
Yeah, so I have actually had a child already. And during that first delivery, everything was wonderful, but I was always interested in having a doula or interested in learning more about doulas. And
Nice.
So when I talked to my sister who had a doula for her third child, she had recommended Gold Coast Doulas and had reached out and said that there was this upcoming course. And I thought, wow, what a great way to learn about so many things all at one time and just kind of get all of my information to kind of make my decision whether, how I wanted to build my team, how I wanted my labor and delivery to look, and then even assessing kind of the postpartum care as well, which I learned that there are postpartum doulas and got to learn that. And that was super exciting because you're not in it alone, so you can definitely get all the different resources. And so it was just really interesting to learn about the different themed weeks that you guys are going to have for sessions.
And it is so interesting that I feel like the interaction component with COVID is so important, even in a virtual format, like the online private Facebook group. So that has been, really the reason that we launched Becoming a Mother is because our clients were feeling isolated and our students in our classes that went from in-person to virtual. So Alyssa and I figured, this is the perfect time to better support women, not only in West Michigan, but throughout the country who are feeling isolated and anxious due to COVID and really needing to get some resources since a lot of things that used to be in person changed to virtual, including like fitness classes and even some provider appointments at different points in COVID were virtual.
Right. And you bring up a great point with the building the community. It has been isolating and it has been nerve-wracking and, you don't know what to do, where to go, or, you don't want to socialize too much, but having that Facebook group has been a huge connector and just the option to reach out to other moms and other soon-to-be moms and just ask candid questions. And it was just really fun. And that was kind of before everything started and the Facebook group had launched. That was kind of, I don't know, because I had time, it was sort of like before classes start, everyone's kind of getting to know each other and kind of throwing out questions and just those icebreakers. And it was just a really cool way to see who else in my area. And I think that it is really great to just have some kind of online connection to then stay connected, because even after the 6 weeks are over, I can still pop on and say, okay, question about this. Now I'm experiencing this, or what are you guys doing? It's so hot. What are you guys,
Right.
Now I'm 7 months, or, you're 8 months pregnant in summer. And how are you guys dealing with the heat?
Yeah, exactly. Or your baby's teething, or they're going through a growth spurt. And this group, the women in the course can come and go from it, but have lifetime access to all of the videos and the Facebook group. So yeah, to have those, not only experts like Alyssa and myself as birth and postpartum doulas, but also, learning from each other. And you've been able to guide a lot of the first time moms, based on your experiences and other seasoned moms who are in the group. So that connection has been lovely to learn from each other and get advice about, different wellness practitioners that you've all seen in your own communities. And so that is a lovely, bonus out of all of it.
Absolutely.
So what would you say overall, as far as what you have, since the official 6 weeks have ended, but we're still connecting and asking questions to each other in the group, what would you say were, the highlights of what you got out of becoming a mother overall?
That is a great question. I think for sure the Facebook group and just the fact that I can post a question. I mean, like we had mentioned, I have a toddler at home. And so even just asking the question of, what are you guys doing? Like, how can I make sure that my older child still feels special? Or what can I do when we bring baby home? And so it's just been nice to have other moms who also have other children, who have given their recommendations or have given what they're planning on doing.
Yeah.
As well as like the live Q&A calls were really helpful, even just to listen to what other mothers or expectant mothers are experiencing as well. And so it's just been nice, again, not feeling alone in such a kind of isolating time that we're having. And even when things kind of settle back to normal, it's just another cool opportunity to have access. If I live close enough to Grand Rapids, but I may not be able to make that commute, if it is an in-person class, if it were a 6-week course or something. So it's just cool to have a virtual option as well. But I just think that the course really reminded me of a lot of things that I wanted to have top of mind, like the self-care aspect of things. And the biggest things for me were understanding the doula client relationship and what we can, expect, or what a doula does. And then I also laughed about the sleep training information. So I think that was like, what was that, week 2 and 3 for kind of assembling your team.
Exactly.
And then week 6. So I was very excited about those courses, because that's definitely what I, had struggled with the most with my first, with like sleep training. And again, it's the situation of asking for help and knowing that there are plenty of resources and it's not an insurmountable task. And that there are local resources and very wonderful people who are out there to help.
Yeah. And it's been great because we have a student from New York and one in Detroit area and one out in Seattle. And so I've been able to connect them with resources in their communities as well. But of course, we have a lot of West Michigan related trusted providers. So as far as, you had joined at a good point in pregnancy, but if you were to give advice to any friends who are interested in potentially, taking this course, at what stage in pregnancy would you say it would be ideal to join a course like this?
So probably, I mean, I did it early. I was, but what was it, like 10 or 11 weeks or something? I feel like it was pretty early. And I thought, is this too early? Like, should I not have done this? I mean, definitely the second trimester. And when you're thinking about, do you want a doula? And even if you don't, I think there's so much information, or if you decide that that's not the route you want to take, there's so much information and so many tools to use throughout the pregnancy. And like you said, the during pregnancy, then labor and delivery and postpartum care. I think that there's just so much information that whether you're on the fence about having a doula or not, that it's just such a great tool or such a great workshop course, to take. And I think probably, in the 20 week and beyond, I don't know if there's too late of a time, because if you do want to get a doula, it's probably, I can't remember what weeks you recommend having someone like that picked out, but because that's also
ideally first or second trimester, because we get booked up in doulas all over the country. I mean, if you want a particular doula, we tend to get booked up, but our agency is big enough at Gold Coast where we've had clients hire us at 40 weeks in the past. Yeah. So it can certainly work out. And as you mentioned, not everyone who is in the course plans to have a doula, but it's also other, related professionals, and understanding with some of the expert videos and what we go through in week 2 of assembling your dream team, both personally with family and friends, and also professionally. So getting into physical therapists and having videos from Webster certified chiropractors, for example, and fitness videos and some nutrition focused content. So figuring out, in that, and I know you work through that planning and budgeting worksheet of what your insurance might cover. Do you need a referral from your provider for, say, a physical therapist, or after having baby, pelvic floor, and what might be covered if you have a health savings or flex spending? What are your priorities? Right. And what is your budget? Like planning a wedding, you have a budget you work with, and what are the key things? Is sleep key, or is, breastfeeding support with a international board certified lactation consultant, or is having a doula that you're using a health savings or paying out of pocket for, and all of those things. And if you prefer to have a home birth midwife that you're paying out of pocket for versus having a certified nurse midwife or an OB and delivering at the hospital. And so factoring all of those things in has seemed to be helpful for a lot of our students to just figure out what resources are available in their own communities. And then, just prioritizing based on needs. Some people want a birth photographer, and pictures are very important, or newborn photos. And so figuring that into the budget.
Hey, Alyssa here. I'm just popping in to tell you about our course called Becoming. Becoming a Mother is your guide to a confident pregnancy and birth, all in a convenient 6-week online program. From birth plans to sleep training and everything in between, you'll gain the confidence and skills you need for a smooth transition to motherhood. You'll get live coaching calls with Kristin and myself, a bunch of expert videos, including chiropractic care, pelvic floor physical therapy, mental health experts, breastfeeding, and much more. You'll also get a private Facebook community with other mothers going through this at the same time as you to offer support and encouragement when you need it most. And then, of course, you'll also have direct email access to me and Kristin, in addition to the live coaching calls. If you'd like to learn more about the course, you can email us at info@goldcoastdoulas.com or check it out at thebecomingcourse.com. We'd love to see you there.
So what are your thoughts on, getting through some of that planning? What did you learn through the expert, videos, or even the course content in week 2 that you hadn't known before with your first child?
Yeah. So definitely the variety of doulas. I mean, I think I knew of them, but I didn't really think about it, that there's the bed rest doula, there's a birthing doula, and then a postpartum doula. And it kind of clicks, like a light bulb went off, where it's like, wow, yeah. I mean, if I had to be on bed rest and, here my husband still has to work and I'm, and then there's a toddler, and it's like, how do you, figure that out? And so it just gives you more to think about as well, just to kind of overall think, okay, if something should happen, what would that dream team look like? Would it be family, or could I have someone come in, or even just, having someone, if it's hiring someone to do some house cleaning or housekeeping while you're expecting or after. And so it just really gave me a good opportunity to sit down and say, okay, so what do I think I need, or what do I want, kind of needs versus wants, and how, what do I want it to look like? And for me, the hospital room, my hospital has changed to where now any doctor, which probably could happen anyway, but any doctor could be delivering my baby. And I was thinking, okay, so you establish this relationship with a doctor for all these prenatal visits. And then, Dr. Smith is going to walk in and deliver the baby, which Dr. Smith is absolutely capable and wonderful, but I don't know Dr. Smith. And so that really is what drove me to look at having a doula who could be there, throughout the pregnancy, having questions and texting and just building that relationship where it's not so scary to go into, this hospital room.
Right. Because you don't know your nurse, or your nurse might have a shift change, and then you need to, establish a new connection, and your doula. And so it is a lovely just to have that reassurance and connection and know that they understand what your birth wishes are. And regardless of who's in the room, that you will be fully supported emotionally and physically.
Right. And kind of when I was interviewing the doulas, it was also great to hear just the support for the partner or whoever is going to be in the room for the delivery. So it's kind of like, you could have a really long or a really short delivery and labor and delivery. And if it's a really long one, your partner will need a rest too, or may need to step out for something. And so it's just nice to have additional support that they can kind of trade off or take turns on different things.
Yeah, exactly. So earlier in our conversation, you had mentioned the self-care component. So that's part of week 1 when you're processing your feelings about your pregnancy, and women in the course joined at all stages. Like we had some women that delivered had their baby shortly after the course began. So we're already hearing birth stories. And some women are newly pregnant. And so just, regardless of the stage, thinking about, what you're doing for self-care, what you're doing to connect with baby, and, how you are taking time, especially during a pandemic, to truly care for yourself and help prepare for the upcoming birth. So what did you get out of that first week?
I definitely got out of the first week that, again, self-care is important, and being a mom already, you're kind of wanting to, you want to make sure that your child or children are taken care of and all set. But then, making sure that, to take the time to, go to bed early if that's what you need, or take a bath if that's what you want. And so I definitely took some more time to go on walks and really kind of re-engage in my yoga practice, and wanting to kind of doing sort of like the, I will do like a good morning baby belly rub. And if I'm, putting on any kind of lotion or vitamin E oil or something, just to kind of be like, okay, good morning, baby. And I did that a lot for my first, but as we talked about how the first, it seems like, oh, there's so much, there's so much time. And then with the second, it's like, okay, you're running, you've got all these different things. So not wanting to let so many things slip away. And my husband and I have made an effort to take bump pictures and make sure that, that it doesn't just slip by, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, when I start showing, and then it's like, wow, oh, I'm showing already. Like I am showing faster than I did for my first. So it's like, so we'll have more pictures, but maybe we won't. So a lot of that. And I think just kind of giving myself the space and the time, if, that I don't have to get it all done either. I think that a lot of times you're trying to nest, or you're trying to make sure that all of this is taken care of. And I'm like, okay, that laundry can wait until tomorrow. Or
exactly.
So that's been a little bit of a self-care for me as well, where I'm just like, okay, I'll run, I'll have my husband run the dishwasher, or we'll, have tag team something else.
And so we chatted more about assembling the team, but in the final week with me in the pregnancy and birth portion of becoming a mother, we talk about your actual birth prep. And so that covers everything from positions to the environment in your birthing space to, a bit about your birth reference sheet or birth plan, and having discussions about who will be in the room, whether it's a doula or depending on visitor restrictions, if you plan to have family and so on. So again, being a second-time mom, what did you learn from that segment that you didn't think of with your first birth?
A lot of it was like the environment piece, because I think so much or so often I go places and I think I am the client or the guest, and they know they do this all the time. They deliver babies all the time in the hospital. So I'm not going to put them out, if that makes sense. So if the lights were too bright, I didn't think to say, hey, can we turn the lights down? Or if the environment was in a certain, it would just, it gave me it kind of more of an empowerment to say, okay, this is my experience, and this is, I'm going to deliver a baby. And so it needs to be good for me. And so I think that was probably the biggest thing, my biggest takeaway, and I don't think that, well, it's been a few years now, but I'm trying to look back with for my first delivery and how all of that went down. But again, I didn't ask for a lot because, they'll let me know or they'll tell me this. And I'm thinking, I brought different things. Like I think I even had a diffuser or something that I brought along with me, or there were things that I, trying to make it more of my own space. But again, coming into the environment, I didn't realize how that would directly impact, like if I'm having solid contractions on the way to the hospital and then I get there and now they're ceasing, and it's because, okay, now I'm in a weird space and my body is stopping and saying
down.
No thanks. Mm-hmm. Right. And no one really I didn't think about it as the way of, your environment's changed. Your body's now going into like a weird, I don't know where I am.
Exactly.
And the nurses, would help as they could. But again, I had shift change after shift change for my nurses, but so that's been my long answer of, it was definitely kind of an empowering thing to say that this, is your experience and what, however you want it to be. And so I think I'm very much looking forward to having my doula come, and she'd mentioned that she brings, LED candles. And I think that it just, and to have music, we had kind of, like I said, the generic hospital room experience where the TV turned on and I was on an exercise ball, and, it just, they're different things, and I tried to move around, but I realized I didn't move nearly as much as I should have been. And just kind of waiting for it to happen, for it to happen to me instead of working with it.
Right.
So that was an eye-opening and an exciting thing. So now I can feel more active in the event.
I love it. So, and then getting into the overall investment in your time with the weekly, we have the live calls, which are, recorded for those who miss them. There are video lessons that are short, but there's usually 2 or 3 videos per week, and then worksheets. So what was that as far as your weekly commitment, and how did you budget that time, knowing that you didn't need to stay on track each week, but it certainly is helpful if you want to get on the live calls to have those questions answered? For
sure. So the videos I feel posted pretty early on too in the week. So it was for sure every Monday, at least by Monday they were posted. And so I would try to jump on either Monday to download the worksheets, and then take a look at the worksheets or watch the videos. I definitely would watch the videos no later than Thursday, and a lot of times in the evening. And I would kind of get a notepad out and jot a few questions down or take some notes. And then I would print out the worksheets, and sometimes I would be really diligent in, doing all of those worksheets And then other times I would just kind of look over them and be like, okay, here are questions I have for it, or these are my thoughts, because I did want to join the live calls and make sure if I had questions that I was able to get them answered. Another thing I wish that I had kind of done was like submitted my questions earlier too. That wasn't something that I really had thought of, if I had questions to send them in case I missed the call or something, so then they still would have been asked. So that was
things
something
come
too.
up, so
right.
Yeah, that's a great tip. And some people who knew that they weren't able to make a call would ask questions in advance, and we'd answer them in the recorded call or within the Facebook group if they thought of them after the fact. So that is also helpful. So would you say you spent maybe 30 minutes to an hour a week prepping for the calls, or what would you say your time? Okay.
Yeah, probably 45 minutes or so. It would be, to watch the videos and then to do the worksheets, to prep for that live Q&A call then later at the end of the week.
Great. And then the calls, depending on how many questions and how many people are on, they're about an hour in length,
right,
just so our listeners and clients understand that. And then getting into the final 3 weeks, Alyssa leads everything about baby and postpartum planning and feeding options, as well as sleep. So what did you get out of that? Again, being a seasoned mom, not a first-time mom, what did you learn through those last 3 weeks that you hadn't, considered before, or what tips were helpful to you?
My biggest takeaway was definitely about sleep. And I hope I get it right. I should have looked it up to make sure that I have the routine down. But with sleep, baby wakes up, feed baby, play with baby, and then put baby down again. For my first, I definitely got into the habit of feeding to sleep, and you kind of have this close bond, and it's sweet and it's lovely, and it worked for a while, but then, we laughed in the Q&A call where it's like, it works until it doesn't. And then all of a sudden, if you're going back to work and all of a sudden you have to wake up all of the time, or baby, you're the only one that can do the bedtime routine or whatever, like that kind of starts to put a strain on things. And so for me, that is kind of an uplifting or an exciting, the aha moment, like the awakening of, oh my goodness, that just makes sense, that you wouldn't, if you want to disassociate it or not have your baby always associated. Again, I didn't mind it, but come down the road, if it's one of those things. So for me, the sleep was probably the most educational and just like important one for me, because again, with my first, it was a totally different experience. However, with different kids, you could have an easy, or, you could have a totally different experience. And the other thing that I really liked was when Alyssa kind of did some debunking of, I think there were like 3 common misconceptions or 3 common myths, and, never wake a sleeping baby kind of thing. And so it's just, again, great tools and just good information to kind of give yourself the approval, and like saying like, hey, no, there are times when you will have to wake a sleeping baby. You're not going to, let your baby sleep for all this time, and your baby needs to eat.
Exactly.
And so that was good to hear as well.
And then as far as the expert bonus videos, you all helped us create some of that content based on feedback, which is great because all of the future students are able to benefit from it. But we had noticed that a lot of the course participants had wanted more resources and support for dads. So we had an author come in and talk from the dad perspective about how to engage the father and some helpful tips. And so that was one, and also car seat installation. We added that one later into the facts. So as far as expert videos, give us your thoughts on some of, that coming from professional perspective versus us relaying information directly to you.
Again, I just think so many great tools and resources, and to be able to jump on the website and watch them and get the tidbits and get the information that you need, and then go back and rewatch them. There were quite a few that I watched and I was like, these are excellent, but I don't necessarily retain everything. So the fact that then you have access to them throughout, for forever, that now I can go back and I can have my husband watch the dad author, or the author about
Welcome to Fatherhood.
Welcome. Thank you. Yes, it was the WTF. Yeah, that's right. So, I can have my husband watch the author of WTF, Welcome to Fatherhood, and have that. And same with like the sleep training. And just, again, if there's anything that I find helpful, it's just a great resource that I can keep going back to as well. Or if I think, oh, I don't need this right now, and now all of a sudden, oh, wait, I do actually need this now. I am, I do need to know how to pump before going back to work, or those kinds of things.
Exactly. And then our hypnobirthing instructor, Ashley, has one on breathing. And that was based on feedback that we received after the birth prep group of just how do we give more resources in planning, especially for first-time moms. But some moms, didn't really know what to do with, the pushing stage for breathing, or even in the, the early labor. So did you watch that one, and did that affect how you plan to, focus on your breath during labor, especially with COVID, where until you get admitted, you're wearing a mask, through part of your labor? And
right. Well, and I think, and it may have been more in conversations with you. I may have watched the video, but again, I'm trying to remember all of the different ones that I watched. But even just not having it be like to breathe with it, or again, kind of working with it. I think a lot of times, like when you're experiencing a contraction, it's again happening to you, or you're feeling like it's kind of like, no more, ride it, or like breathe with it, or kind of, I'm trying to think of the words that you may have used before, but it's just sort of like take it on and don't tense up, just kind of. So yeah, definitely helpful, and something that I'll be watching, even if I have watched it, rewatching.
So it gets closer for sure.
Right. Because again, just those reminders, and again, excited to have a doula on my team to then also remind me, to help me through that as well. Because again, in the heat of the moment, or when things are happening, sometimes things get kind of lost in the shuffle.
Right. Exactly. So Sarah, thank you for filling us in on your experience with becoming a mother course. And we're so thankful that you joined us in, that early beta stage. So we're able to use your feedback as we create the next version of the course that comes out in August. And our goal is to have them quarterly. So, women will have options, to at least take one class during their phase of pregnancy throughout the year. So yeah, as far as what you would tell someone who is interested, I know you had mentioned to me before we got on this podcast that you had some friends that you were planning to tell about the course. What have you explained to them, and why should they invest not only their time, but also their money into an online program?
Again, the community is just so incredible. You mentioned it yourself, having the experts as well as just fellow moms to be has just been an awesome resource. And like I said, now you have this virtual community. I really think that whether you are looking at having a doula or not, there are so many resources. And again, those expert videos are fantastic. And it's just gaining so much information that you have access to throughout your pregnancy and then after, and any future pregnancies. And so I think it's just such an awesome way to go through, learning. I do love learning, and I love getting as much information as I can. And so it's just really helpful to have it kind of all in one place as well. You can buy a ton of books, which you also recommend, but you can buy a ton of books and read as many books. But again, having those live Q&A calls and having someone on the other end, if you're sending an email or posting something on Facebook, it's just that real time kind of connection that's been huge for me. And then again, just having the experts that can give answers or provide you resources and connect you with the people who can help. So it's just been awesome.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I look forward to continuing to connect in our Facebook group. And I can't wait to hear your birth story down the road.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Sarah. Take care.
Right. Yeah, take care. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Ask the Doulas. For more information about Gold Coast Doulas, visit us on our website, goldcoastdoulas.com. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and give us a 5-star review. Thank you. Remember, these moments are golden.